Welcome back to the Sportswire, ladies and gentlemen. And I know we're not talking about sports currently at the moment, but this is why we're Sportswire Entertainment. We are covering all aspects of life. So we're still here with Rob DeCosta, who's going to not only host the platform. Actually, before we get into your other two shows, I do want to mention our sponsors for tonight. We have CXP Studios out of North Haven, KBW Designs out of Brantford, which you'll see a commercial of theirs, either if you've already seen it or you've seen it later. I'm not in the control room, so I'm not sure when it's played. We also have Eagle Eye Entertainment out of North Haven, Sports Plus out of North Haven, who designed these great Sportswire Entertainment shirts.
Thank you.
And made them for us. Thank you very much. We hope he's watching. Dr. J of Rent to DJ is doing all of our music. Our opening theme song didn't get played tonight, but we're going to work on that for future shows. And also some other music. He actually put together a theme song for the platform as well. Sophie Marie's Pizza out of Hamden. They provided us some nourishment for tonight. And then New England Film Studios, right from where we're broadcasting from, in New Haven. I want to thank you to all those great sponsors for helping us out tonight. And definitely all the links are on the website, except for CXP and KBW, which, well, actually KBW is on there, but CXP is not. I will put that on. All right, so let's get on to Rob's other shows.
Hey, I was really interested. You're telling me a little bit about a program, kind of like a leadership circle, I think you were calling it?
Absolutely. I'm passionate about leadership. I think that's the missing component in this world. And that's why we have so many misguided people and misguided situations because of lack of leadership. You know, even in homes that we spoke about earlier with the platform being the platform being the foundation of that, and the leadership circle kind of spinning off of that. Try to develop leaders, inspire people that have gifts. Because the thing is, leadership today is very elusive. It's misunderstood. A lot of people think that management is leadership or administration is leadership, not realizing those are different talents or different gifts. Leadership is on a whole different platform than what they, mark it out to be. So when you take a manager and you put him in a leadership position, he's going to give you what a manager will produce, not what a leader will produce. So therefore, you can never take your, whatever program you have, company or whatever circumstance, you can never take it to the level it needs to go to.
And I think that's interesting. I think we've all probably experienced that too in the workplace, where you're in a situation where someone is in charge of a department or a division or, the workplace, and their skills are not necessarily the leadership skills, but they're in that position, so we look to them for that, and it becomes, part of what we expect of them, but that's not really what they're there for. So I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah, absolutely. Leadership, I mean, I'm not taking any words out of your mouth or what you were going to say, but I mean, I always thought the best managers that I've ever had in jobs are the ones that got right into the thick of things with you. That to me is leadership, not sitting up saying, oh, do this, this. Then another manager comes around saying, do this, do that. And another one comes around, that's mismanaging. That's managing. That's not leadership.
Absolutely. I've learned recently about leadership even more. I think managers, they figure out what the problem is, but they don't know how to solve the problem. Leaders are constantly learning. They're innovators. They learn how to teach. They learn how to train people. They learn how to equip people. They learn how to empower people. They also learn how to sign and designate what's good for you, because what a leader will do is will take the best out of you and will make it flourish. He put you in the best situation possible. And leaders will lead by example. Not that leaders are perfect,
right?
But what happened is if they make a mistake, a leader will stand up and take ownership.
Yeah,
that's a great point. You will see him develop from that, and you will see changes. So I think the manager will be more trying to let somebody else handle it, or just let things kind of flow the way they're supposed to be, or just trying to make things move along. That would be more your manager. And I go, that would be a detriment to any particular organization that wants to, be foresight, if they want to have foresights or insights, they wouldn't look towards the manager. They would be looking for leaders. But in today's world, it's hard to detect that unless you have those particular eyes to see that.
Right, and you can't discern, one from the other a lot of times because we just lump it together in our minds. And I think that's really interesting the way you bring that out, because even just the words, if You know, you separate all the connotations that go with it. Manage has certain implications. Lead has certain implications too, and they're not necessarily the same thing.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like your background is going to be a great asset to this and really makes sense with the programming, because you said you had a background in psychology.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then also working, was it the team ministry that you said?
Team ministry. Plus I grew up with people mentoring me, so that was a natural transition for me to be a mentor to other people. I watch a lot of sports as well, and I can tell when a guy is winning championship, it's because he's a leader. He's not trying to manage the team. And you can see the difference with the 49ers. That was a major switch there.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh, one of those guys, brothers. But he came into a team that he inherited from another guy that was a leader before that, Mike Singletary.
Yeah.
And Mike Singletary managed the guy's talent. But Jim was able to come in and help those guys flourish.
Well, and that's a really interesting point too, because and it's with Jim with the 49ers, and then John's brother was with the Ravens, or is with the Ravens. But Singletary, to my recollection, when he was playing, was considered a leader on the field. So it's interesting that it's a different skill set for him to then switch over, not only just to be a coach, but his style of leadership sounds like it potentially changed even in that transition.
Yeah. Well, what happened is sometimes you can lead yourself, and maybe you can lead one other person, but to lead a group, a team, and different talents and different personalities is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
And that's why you get into their life. Like Terry, I refer to Terry a lot because Terry was not formal. He didn't come from a formal education, but he knew everybody's personality and character, and he knew how to bring out the best of you. You know, he knows that if you're a tough mental kid, he can yell at you and make certain kind of gesture towards you, and you can be motivated. But he also knows if you're kind of a soft, laid-back individual, he has to rub you in the back a little bit more. So it was a different approach that he had, and he was able to master every single aspect of it where he can bring out the best. Because everything I've learned from him, I've practiced it until this day.
I don't want to run out of time on this, but you mentioned when we were talking prior to the show, Men of Steel program, and I thought that was really fascinating, and I love the acronym.
Yeah, that's an approach that I wanted to take with just developing solid leadership and really making a distinction between managers, administrators, and leaders.
Do you mind if I hit the acronym there for the STEEL? So it was STEEL, and we've got student, train, correct me if I'm off on any of these two, equip, empower, and leader. Yeah. And I think that's a great acronym for Men of Steel, being men of fortitude, strong, and having all these components, because a lot of times we'll think of strength. Well, we forget that there's training and there's equipping and there's, you've got to be a student. You've got to be willing to learn to really become that kind of leader.
You've got to constantly be a learner. I heard this quote a long time ago from Jim Rohn. He said, never be lazy in learning, because learning is a segue for a lot of things. You innovate in learning. You can learn from observing people. You can learn intellectually by reading, or you can learn by self-improving. You understand your weaknesses, you make connections to certain things, and you discover what kind of path you can take. But you got to be honest and you got to be committed for the most part, you know what I mean? Because it's got to be a consistent thing that you do. It can't be something that's a fly-by, but you got to be consistent, You got to be on a daily basis with that stuff. And eventually you get there, but the biggest thing about it, I see, you got to be really patient with yourself. You got to really be patient with yourself.
So talking about student and training and all this, we're going to segue into the next show that you're going to be doing, and that's the Teacher's Corner. Yeah. So tell us a little about Teacher's Corner.
The Teacher's Corner is
they all seem to coming together.
Yeah, what I want to get as many people involved with the shows. The Teacher's Corner is going to serve as an opportunity for people to come on and help train, just kind of like Redeem was speaking earlier, how to empower people spiritually. The thing I realize about empowerment is if you give somebody a task and they don't embrace it, they're not empowered. It's not until they embrace it and they become empowered. So there's a lot of people that don't know how to read their scriptures. Some people don't understand how to interpret the scriptures. Now you can refer them to a bunch of books, or you can sit hand in hand with them and give them perspective, and you can teach them along the way until they develop their own personality and character, and they can go ahead and do it on their own. But everybody needs somebody to walk with them, from the beginning, Adam and Eve.
Right.
got and walked with them, you know, and taught them a few things. And the choices that they make was on their own choices. But today I wanted to just talk about how we can bring a lot of different people in. There's a lot of people that's a lot more wiser than I am. I don't want to hog up the whole floor, but there's going to be a lot of people that I'm going to give opportunity to be able to share some of the, you know, critical aspect of training that they've done over the years that's got them to a certain point, how they study their scriptures and what kind of books they use and how to self-train. So there's a lot of people that's going to be involved where I can basically say, you know, this is not isolated wisdom, this is wisdom abroad, it's expanded. So whoever you can relate to, you can go to that person and learn how to do it. You know, for me, I spread out 4 or 5 different books, you know, 3 or 4 different Bibles and, you know, concordance and commentaries, and I just go at it, you know, and I pick at least 4 hours a week to do something like that where I can do in-depth study. But along the way, I take little bits and pieces of it, you know. One time a friend of mine asked me a question. He said, how do you eat an elephant? You know, well, you cook it, and then you eat it. Well, he said you eat it one bite at a time. So when you look at the Bible, it's so vast, and what I've learned today, 10 years from now, it will be something totally different because my life will be in a different place. So I got to be able to be in a position where I can eat a little bit at a time, and it would help me basically learn how to digest and learn how to flourish from it as well.
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Well, one thing that I was thinking between each of our guests tonight is just building that consistency and really developing your skills over time, whether it be leadership or whether it be, you know, convictions from the Word, like we were talking about with Redeemed earlier, or Nikki talking about training. You know, that it's got to be something you develop that consistency and continue to go at. And I know we didn't have a guest on, but the same thing for football. So, you know, I mean, it's Sportswire Entertainment. We're covering the range here, but there's always connections and there's always parallels. And you're talking about the lessons you learned from basketball. And I think anyone who's played in organized sport, especially in school or on a team like that, there's so many lessons you could take away from it, that it's life, you know, it's how do we apply these things to life. And hopefully that's what we're helping you do tonight. And hopefully that's something you'll continue to join us and we can be involved in that with you as well.
Absolutely, and I think it's great just going over how to empower people, and especially, you know, at the beginning, talking over our, you know, in the beginning of this interview, talking over the teams and what needs to happen, because that, you know, like I said, our kids are our next generation. You saw my son up here earlier singing the national anthem, you know, and that's one of his talents that, you know, he's got the talent to sing. I don't have it. I could barely do karaoke for country because that's the only genre of music that sounds good when you don't have a tone. But the thing is you need to empower the children. So, you know, whether it be inner city basketball, whether it be anything, you got great shows.
Yeah.
And you know,
one thing I'll add to that would be you got to love it, and you got to have a passion for it, or else it's going to dwindle away, and it's going to be just another thing that's a flyby.
Right.
But you got to have a passion for it. You got to love it. That's where it starts.
Yeah. Well, Rob, thank you for coming on. Yeah, this is a great
pleasure.
All right.
And all the information for the platform and the Teacher's Corner and the Leadership Circle will be on Sportswire Entertainment's website. In the near future, we're going to take our final break, and then we'll be back to wrap things up.